Tuesdays.
Good morning.
Just Dollar Tuesday.
Let's roll. We're on page. We are on page 54.
A couple things, but mostly closeouts.
So it goes as follows. Vayechlu, page 54. Vayechlu mepri darkam umimotzoatem isbau, which means. Jack, you ready?
Let's go.
So it goes. They will eat from the fruit on their own way, and be filled with their own devices. Now the pasuk reveals here something very deep principle. Hakadosh Baruch Hu runs the world with 54, with perfect justice, but also with rachmanut, with mercy. He doesn't need to punish, right? He simply lets us taste really the fruit of our own choices. Now vayachlu mipri darkam, which means they will eat the fruit of their way. Every path we walk really has a taste. You know, some are sweet and some are bitter. It really depends how we walk, and eventually, we will taste what we planted. Right? He's using a play on words here. Right? They'll eat from the fruit on their own way, which means what you do has repercussions, right? And eventually, right, we'll taste what we plant. And it's not really cruelty that he's talking about. It's kindness of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, because only by tasting the outcome of our choices do we truly learn really who we are and what kind of world we are building for ourselves. And the word that Pri Darkam that he's talking about here, the fruit of their way, is so powerful. Why? Because when we make a choice, it doesn't end in that moment. It plants a seed. Right? Think about it. You make a choice. It's not ending there. That's the beginning. I don't know if you saw that video or that this African American guy who couldn't say beginning. He said beninging. Or it's the beginning. You saw that video? It's hilarious. It's like for a minute he's trying to say beginning, but he's glitching like hard. It's like in the beginning. It was hilarious. You know that one?
You might need to save this recording.
Why is it? It's fine. It's fine. Who cares? It's fine. It's all good. Every thought and every word and every what?
I'm gonna find it after.
And every action becomes a seed in the garden of our own life. Right? Every single action we do, and if we plant kindness, chesed, patience, and emunah, our inner world becomes the garden of that. Now, if we plant anger and selfishness and gava, then that too grows, and eventually that will bear fruit as well. And you see this with families all the time. The way a father is ultimately the way the child will be. Why? Because he learns from the parent. All the time you see this. You see an arrogant father, you'll see have an arrogant son. If you have a father who has chesed and kindness, in our community is very into tzedakah. Why? Because we saw our parents always giving tzedakah. Right, so that instilled within us the concept of giving tzedakah. Same thing with us, but the same thing with everything that we do, not just the kindness, and also lo alenu, the bad things that we do. And Shlomo Melech is teaching us here something that we don't get away with anything, not because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching to catch us, chas v'shalom, but I mean he is, but because the reality itself responds to our actions that we're doing, and the world is wired. The Zohar brings down with the spiritual cause and effect. Everything we do has a cause and effect. And the beginning of the and the middle of the pasuk, what was the word again? They will be filled with their own desires. This part of the pasuk is very real. Why? Because it means that sometimes the greatest punishment is getting exactly what we wanted. That when a person chases after a dream, they're chasing a status, they're chasing a lifestyle without a Kadosh Baruch Hu, without values. They might achieve it, but they'll find that it's empty. They become full, but not fulfilled. Right? Yizba'u means they'll be satisfied, but that satisfaction won't last. Right? You have this all the time. You have people, the rich people, or people who don't really understand what life is all about. They'll chase after a car, after a house, after whatever it is, and then they have that, and they're not fulfilled. They're full with whatever they got. They're not fulfilled, or they're full of it. You have to. It's really how you use the full, and because the neshama, can never be filled with its own devices. It's only filled with a connection to something eternal, not external. And that's a tragedy of living without awareness. Is that when you get what you want, you realize it's not what you needed. Right? Always we'll get what we want, and it's not what we really need. Right? We need shalom bayit. We need happiness. We don't need a car to stem that happiness from that car. Because again, when that car goes away, where's that happiness? Happiness is not there anymore. Which means, what's real happiness? From within. Right? We'll get a car we can't afford to impress people that don't care about us. That's what happens. You'll get a car, you'll get a house that you can't really afford. Why? Because you're trying to impress people around you in the community. But we both know we can't afford that house, and we're trying to put up a facade for something that we really are, but we're not. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and even here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mercy really shines because when He lets us, eat the fruit of our way, it's not to destroy us, it's to teach us something. Sometimes, we can only change when we finally taste what we did, of the bitterness of a wrong choice. Right? When we feel the emptiness that comes after chasing something that didn't really matter. When we realize that the thing that we thought would make us happy only made us hollow. Right? That moment of awakening is when a person says to himself, this can't be it. Right? I want something deeper than that. And you have this all the time with religion. You have a guy who's chasing after a certain lifestyle. He realizes that he doesn't really want that lifestyle, and boom, what happens? This guy flips out and becomes, the biggest tzaddik. Why? Because he wanted something deeper. And that's the planting of teshuvah. The moment when you realize that I don't want this, I want something deeper, right? That's really the moment of teshuvah. And we see this very beautiful with what happened with Joseph's brothers. When they threw him in the pit and they sold him, and they thought that they were done with him. Years later, what happened? When they stood before Yosef in Mitzrayim, not knowing who he was, what happened? And he accused them falsely. What they said, Aval Hashemim anachnu alachenu. Even though he didn't know, right? What happened with the brothers? They didn't know that he was Yosef. And then they said, when he accused them, they said right away, we're responsible for our brothers. They didn't even know that was Yosef screaming at them. Which means that they tasted that their own fruit, like what the Pasuk is saying, really the pain of being falsely accused, of being trapped in a situation beyond their control, was the taste of what happened to them from the beginning. Because again, they accused Yosef of what he didn't do. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu flipped the script. They got accused for something they didn't do also. And they said, boom, we messed up. Right? We are guilty for what we did with our brother. And that taste is really what led to teshuvah. It wasn't a vengeance, it was an education to change the person right then and there. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling them that to experience their own choices from the other side, to flip the script so they can grow from that choice as well. Now, the Torah is not built on a reward and punishment system the way the world sees it. It's a system of cause and effect. What happens when you put your hand in fire? What happens? It burns. Not because the fire hates you, but that's the reality, right? You put your hand in fire, you burn your hand. When you live with kindness and honesty, the world becomes brighter. Chas v'shalom, when you live the opposite, the world becomes darker. The Zohar quotes this all the time. That's a cause and effect, because you're bringing light to the world. Ultimately, you see another person bringing. We were discussing in Pirkei Avot this morning. It says that, imen ani mili, imen lo ani. What was the meaning? Yeah, and what was the second part of the Mishnah? I just forgot it. And the last part, milach shaveh matai, right? Which means if I'm not for me, then who am I for myself, right? And if I'm not for others, who am I? That's the English part of the Mishnah. Which means in order to be there for others, you have to be there for yourself first. Which means you have to first build yourself. In order to build others, you have to build yourself first as well. And then after that, if not now, when will you change? When will you improve other people? When will you help other people to get there? That's really the idea. Every action has a cause and effect in this world, like he's saying here. The same way he's saying with their fruits, right? The action you do is planting the tree for your future. Any action you do, you could either plant a negative tree, you could plant a positive tree. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is allowing us to experience the outcome of the reality we create from the beginning, as we said, the beginning. Right, and here's the beauty. Well, it's not racist. It's just how he couldn't speak English. It's nothing to do with racist.
I don't know about that.
I promise you, it was a viral video. And here's the beauty of it: is that the moment we recognize this system, we can change it. Why? Because even though our past actions planted seeds, we can now start planting new ones right now. We can choose different fruits of our future. We can water new trees. And every time you choose, patience over anger, truth over pride, tefillah over distraction, you're changing the taste of your own garden, and eventually, you'll sit down and you'll be filled with what you actually planted, because that's what he's talking about here. The inner message of this pasuk is really the concept of responsibility. As Jews, they just came out with a statement the other day that 6 out of 10 of the richest people in the world are Jews.
It's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, literally yesterday. It came 2 days ago. I think Forbes put out a list.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy.
And then they said most of the richest people in the world are stemmed from Jews. All the companies, everything. Why? Because we have a concept of responsibility. And they said this also in Israel. Why is Israel a startup nation? Because a lot of guys, they'll go to yeshiva, or they'll go to the army, they'll learn Gemara, they learn the concept of responsibility, they go to the army, they learn responsibility, then they say, we have to do something for the world. We have to make a change in the world. That's what Jews are. We have to make a difference in this world. And the Pasuk really empowers us. It says that you're not a victim of your faith, you're a gardener of your destiny. Look at it as that. The fruits that you taste tomorrow are really planted by the choices you're making today. Whatever you do today is the difference. It makes an impact of what you're doing tomorrow. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us to eat, as he says, to eat the fruit of our way, he's teaching us that what we do really matter, and our actions have a weight in our life, and our lives have an impact in the world.
Right.
And we're shaping the world with every decision we make. So B'ezrat Hashem, we understand that every decision we really make really has a massive impact in the world, B'ezrat Hashem, and we'll use that for doing all we good. Have a great day.